Welcome back to the IE427 garage, everybody. As you can see, we have Michael's car back on the lift. We spent the better part of this afternoon just moving stuff around the shop. We put some shop wheels, our shop wheels, on the 25th anniversary car. We're getting close enough on Michael's car that we have his Halibran wheels back on the car. These are Halibran wheels that we actually got for him from another owner, one of our pals, part of the family. And these are, I think they're Team 3. Yeah, I think these are Team 3 Halibran. So we're pretty much past a lot of the fabrication point of Michael's build, and thought it was probably time to put these wheels on, and then we'll be doing an alignment and corner weighting and all that stuff here pretty soon. So it just was time, and that way we can safely store the 25th anniversary wheels, because they're kind of a one-of-a-kind thing and irreplaceable. So we're jumping back on Michael's car. Some of this stuff was shot, the video portion was shot before we started work on the 25th anniversary car. So it's mixed in with that. There's a little snippet from the 25th anniversary car in there as well. So stay tuned, and we'll get you caught up on what's going on Michael's car. I got the brakes bled today, and I'm going to show you how I do it. I'm going to show you how I do it. You may not be able to do it this way. In that case, you can just do it the traditional way of pushing the brake pedal down, building pressure, opening the bleed screw, tightening the bleed screw, and then letting the pedal up. With the pressure bleeder, I found that I don't need to bench bleed the master cylinder. So what I use is not a paid advertisement. This is just a pressurized canister, and then I have a number of different adapters for the top. This just happens to be the Ford one, and so with a Ford master cylinder that has 3 tangs inside of it, this goes in. It's airtight and allows you to build pressure, and usually between 10 and 15 pounds of pressure on that gauge right there will pressurize the brakes enough to push fluid all the way back to the rear brakes, no problem. So I still do it the traditional way, in that I start at the passenger rear, then the driver's side rear, then the passenger side front, and then I do the driver's front last. I had no problems bleeding this. I will probably bleed the brakes one more time before the car gets delivered, probably before the body gets put back on the car for the final time, because there might be some micro bubbles inside the lines, and they are going to work themselves to the bleed screws, to the calipers. So we're going to go ahead and we will probably bleed this one last time before the body goes on. But the brakes are bled, the pedal is nice and firm and at the top, and all is good with the world. We did get some parts. We've got the I left it in my other work truck, but I do have the 22-degree elbow that we're going to put right here for the air intake. I have the silicone boot that we are going to mount on here, and that is going to take us into that 22-degree elbow, and then we have a K&N filter to cap that all off. I did also bring home some, the nice thing about having a construction company is I have a bunch of hardboard because we use this to protect floors when we're doing a hardwood floor project. So I brought a piece of hardboard back to the shop here, and we are going to cut that along with a piece of 090 aluminum for the top of the tunnel. And the aluminum piece for the tunnel top will be removable with machine screws and nutserts. The hardboard piece is actually going to get covered in vinyl. And this is the vinyl for the dash. So I don't know if it's going to be the same color for the tunnel or not, but this is the vinyl that's going on the dash. So I have that. The dash is going to be one of the projects we're going to be doing here pretty quick. Little tech tip for you. When you are shopping for hoses, make sure that the hose that you are installing is compatible with the fluid that you're going to be running through it. So both these hoses look very similar. They're both 5/8 in diameter. This is a good quality hose. This is a, I think this is a Goodyear hose, if I remember right. Insul one, I believe that's a Goodyear hose. Anyways, however, this is a heater hose. It says right on there, heater hose. So we know it's compatible with coolant and water, but is it compatible with power steering fluid? Question mark. So we're running a hose for our power steering reservoir down to our pump. And I really don't want to take a chance that this may or may not be compatible. So what I did is I went on to, again, I'm not advertising for O'Reilly's, but I just like the fact that I can search their website without a particular vehicle input, and I can pull up a bunch of different hoses. So they had 3 different power steering hoses, 2 of which were 5/8 inside diameter, 1 was 3/8 inside diameter. The funny thing is, the longer hose was less expensive. So this hose, this part number 417, was $4 less than the shorter hose. Though it was only shorter by about 5-6 inches, but same exact hose. So what I did was I purchased this. I will put it back in the bag so that the next time I go to get a piece of hose, I know that this is power steering hose, and I can use it for the same type of installation. I've already cut the piece over here and have it ready to install. Got the hose clamps ready to go. We are going to come out of the inlet for the fluid. We're going to wrap around our coolant hose here, and then we're going to go up and into the bottom of our reservoir right there. There's really no other way to do it. We're running out of real estate under the hood for stuff like this. The steering shaft is right here, which the clutch cable is resting against right now. We'll probably have to put some type of strap here to keep those away from one another. But anyways, didn't want that power steering hose to come in contact with the steering shaft. So we're going to run it right on the inside here, curve it in, and then into the bottom of the reservoir. So I'll bring you back as soon as I get that in place. And there you go. So remember, I stated this in a video earlier that always try to orient your clamps in a way that you can service them later. So with all the stuff that's going on here, about the only way that this will ever be able to be the clamp to be unscrewed is in this direction, this way, from the bottom. Not easy, but still accessible. Anything from the front is going to be blocked by all of the cooling hoses that we're going to have up there. We've got the frame below it, and then we've got the power steering pump to the other side. So it's tight in there. And then what we've done is we've taken the hose, we've brought it up around that cooling tube that comes out of the side of the block, up, and then into the bottom of the reservoir. And you can see from the top that we have clearance between the steering shaft and the hose. So we're not going to have any problems with anything rubbing right there. So our power steering system should all be fluid tight now. We should be able to put power steering fluid in the system, and we should have no leaks. So I think once we start working on the cooling system, which is basically just the radiator and the coolant hoses left, then we should be able to finish up all of our fluids. So since I was working on getting this air intake temperature sensor in here, and it was pretty easy, just drilled a 1/2-inch hole. It's got like a little what would you call it, almost like a single barb that pushes in, so it makes it difficult for it to come back out. So that was really easy to put in there. Just drilled a hole in the intake and intake tube and push that in. And then this sensor cable from the Holley system was about, I don't know, this much longer. So this much longer than what is there now. And so I took that amount of wire out of the harness and cleaned that up. I took the throttle position sensor and I took probably 6 inches out of that. And then the air intake control, I took about 8 inches out of that, and then put it all back together, kind of taped it up like Holley does. I mean, there's a typical Holley splice into the protective jacket. So I did it, you know, resembling what they do. So got that all squared away. And now I'm just going to be working on just more little odds and ends. I'm probably going to transition here to the dash pretty soon. I've got to lay out the rest of the dash where the ignition switch is going to go and the heater switch is going to go. And then what's the last thing? There's one more thing. Oh, and the horn. I've got to find a place for the horn button. And then the dash can be covered and I can start getting the dash put together. But yeah. I'm going to throw this in the middle of work that we're doing on Michael's car because I don't want this to be missed. I've got the fuel pump all ready to go into the 25th anniversary car minus the sock on the bottom. But I want to show you something that is probably one of the most overlooked parts of installing a fuel pump. This is the gasket that sits right in here and seals the top of the fuel pump hanger. Everyone puts this in dry, and you can't, because what happens as soon as you put the fuel pump in there and it turns just a little bit as the locking ring goes down, the gasket pushes out of place. It'll either push out, it'll push out this way, I'm exaggerating this, or it'll push in like this and it'll bend over. And then the first time you fill up the tank, it leaks out of the top of the tank. So take your gasket and this, hard to do with one hand, but I'm going to do my best here. Put a little bit on your hand, on your finger, and then just work it all the way around the outside of the gasket. All four sides. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow the gasket or the O-ring to slide but still stay in place in the groove, because there's a machine groove in the top of the tank, and it's going to allow it to stay in there and not bunch up. And then when you go to put the fuel pump in, the gasket's going to stay exactly where it needs to be. Alright, we're at a good point in this video that we're going to go ahead and talk about the wheels. These wheels we got from one of our buddies, Bob, in Arizona, who had a beautiful, beautiful red Mark II. And Bob had dreams of having 15-inch wheels and tires on his car, I think from the beginning. But for whatever reason, he ended up with these 17-inch wheels on his car for probably the first 3 to 5 years he had the car, and then later switched out black roll bars that he had on the car with chrome ones, and then he changed out these 17-inch wheels with a set of 15-inch wheels, and put those on the car all the way up until the time he sold the car. And then I think he sold it to someone locally in Arizona. I think he lives just outside of Prescott, Arizona, and put these up for sale and had a bunch of other parts, and we bought all of his excess parts along with these wheels. And we knew that Michael was looking for a set of Halibrands, and so we hooked Michael up with these. So these are 17 by 8 in the front with, I believe, a 245, 45, 17. 245, 45, 17 in the front, right? And then on the back, we have 9.5-inch wheels with 275, 40, 17s. So it's not the traditional 315s in the back. And the reason for that is the wheels and tires that Michael had on this car previously, he couldn't fit any bigger tires because it had that 2004 Mach 1 rear end in it, which is just almost 3 inches wider than a Fox rear axle. And so we've since changed out the rear axle and narrowed the axle housing to the point where he can run traditional Halibrand wheels, which was what he wanted. And this was really the only solution, was to narrow that axle to get Halibrand wheels to fit underneath the fender wells. So rather than purchasing new tires and everything, he had just gotten these tires. These are the Nitto 555s. Good all-around street tire. And so he's going to run these for a while. He can go up a size or two in tire if he wants, but I think he'll probably stay with the 245s in the front. And I think the car is going to look really nice with these when it's all said and done. So the wheels and tires are back on the car. We had them on for a short time when he first got them, and we had the tires mounted on there. Okay, we have been working on vacuum lines. So we need vacuum for our fuel pump because the fuel pump needs to see vacuum in order to increase pressure when it sees a drop in vacuum. So you stomp on the pedal and it takes away all the vacuum, and therefore the fuel pump adds more pressure to the fuel injection system. So that's taken care of. We got that vacuum line done. Second vacuum line goes in through the firewall and right to the Holley system. So the Holley system has a built-in 1-bar map sensor, so you don't need a separate map sensor. But as you saw in one of the wiring videos, we removed the actual plug if you want to run one. So if at any time you want to change this to run like boost and you need like a 3-bar map sensor, the wires are in the harness and the connector can be put back on, and a traditional map sensor can be put in place. We're not worried about that right now because I don't think that Michael will be ever running boost. The third vacuum line goes up to this vacuum solenoid. The vacuum solenoid is electrically activated. So basically, as soon as the fan on the heater is turned on, any speed, low, medium, or high, it sends 12 volts to this solenoid, opens up the solenoid valve, and allows vacuum to pull this valve open. And then once this valve is open, coolant flows through into the heater core, and then the heater core will then get nice and warm, and the fan blows across it and will warm up your feet. So that's done. I did not show this in the previous video, even though you probably saw the lines. When we had all of the braided lines done at the local hose shop, we had all of the engine hoses done as well. So our original hard lines come up here, and then I think this is our supply. So our supply comes into the side of the fuel pressure regulator right here. We come out of the fuel pressure regulator over here, and then I like to make, rather than putting 90-degree fittings on this stuff, if you've got the room, just run more hose and let your hose make a nice sweeping 90, or in this case, almost a 360-degree turn and into the fuel rail. The fuel likes to flow through that nice gentle curve more than it likes to make a sharp 90. So we've got that in, and then we've got our return coming out of the bottom of the regulator, and then it goes back and into our hard line right here. So all the fuel lines are done, and then if you remember, we have the Holley fuel pressure transducer over here, and so once we turn the Holley system on for our initial fire up to restart the engine, we are going to be able to monitor our fuel pressure, and then we can set our fuel pressure right here on top of the fuel pressure regulator. I think Holley wants this set at 55 pounds of pressure static. So that's without the engine running and basically with no vacuum. So you set that by just turning the key, cycling the fuel pump a couple of times, and then adjusting this. And then once you've got it set, you can tighten down the stop nut. I think we talked about the accelerator cable already. We did get our new accelerator cable. It's in. We've got that routed back over to the side of the brake master cylinder, and that's all in, done, and working. We have the Russ Thompson accelerator cable, not cable, pedal all installed. And that is right in there and looking nice. And we still have to figure out our pedal pads. We have some awesome pedal pads that we got from Mk3. We've got these, and we are going to mount those to the existing Mustang pedals using all these bolt holes that we got that Mike provides. And then these little covers will just glue in there. I used two-sided tape on the last one, and since we probably won't use all the holes to mount them, what I'll do is in whatever hole we're not using to mount it, maybe I'll do two across from one another. We'll drill those through the actual pedals as well. And so if you ever need to take these off or tighten the bolts, what you do is you just stick a punch in from the back side and just push. And if you push hard enough with two-sided tape, it will let loose the cover, and then you'll be able to get to your bolts to snug them up, and then you can put the pedal cover back in with some two-sided tape again. So we found that that works really well. So we did get some deliveries. We got, this is from our buddy Mike Everson at Replica Car Parts, and he sent us a bezel. So for the steering wheel, we have that Russ Thompson turn signal switch, which is round. The hole in the Factory 5 dash is not rectangular, it's oval. And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take this cover that we got from Mike, place it on here, find out how much of this hole is going to be exposed, and then I'm probably going to have to epoxy in a little patch, and I'll make a band-aid on the back with epoxy. That'll keep this front portion of it real nice, nice and flat. And then we'll cover it in our foam, and then we'll cover it in our fabric. And this is the vinyl that's going to be going on the dash. So I hope Michael always keeps his hands clean, because this vinyl is going to be very unforgiving for dirty fingerprints. So this is what we're going to be covering the dash with. I don't think we've talked about that in the past. So that's that. We let's see what else we got. I think that's about it. I think that gets us all caught up from the stuff that we did previously before we started working on the Mark IV 25th anniversary car to now. So since I've just gotten the car back on the lift, I haven't had a real chance to do anything today. I think the dash is going to be the next thing we work on. So we'll be pulling the steering wheel out. I did grab another hub that I had upstairs, and I put Michael's steering wheel on there. I think we're going to talk to him and see if he wants to order a new steering wheel, because this one it's a factory 5 steering wheel, but it's seen better days. It's very faded, and it's well used. So we'll see if maybe he wants to order another one, maybe a Motolita one, which Factory 5 used to provide. I actually had a Motolita in mine. Mine was an early enough Mark III that it had the Motolita steering wheel in it. What else? I feel like I'm just rambling on. So I'm going to end the video here, I think, and do a quick sign out with you guys. And that's it. All right. I want to thank you guys all for watching. We're back on Michael's car again, and we've got a bunch of stuff left to do. Obviously, we've got the dash. We have to fit the body, even though Miller doesn't need to pre-fit the body since he was the last person that painted it anyways. But we do need to put the body on, put the windshield in temporarily so we can fit the hardtop. I've never done one of these APE hardtops, so I just want to make sure that we don't have any special things that we have to do in order to fit it. I want to see if I can work out the hardware issues. I haven't even opened the box or the crate to look at the instructions to see exactly what we need to do to fit that. So we're going to be working on that. And what else? And then just finishing up the electrical. We've still got to get a battery hooked up to this, which I'm going to have Michael order. And troubleshoot, if anything, any of the turn signals and headlights and all that kind of stuff, and then hopefully get this engine fired so that we can let it move on its own power to get it in and out of the trailer for the body fitment and upholstery. So thank you guys all for watching. Appreciate every view that you guys are giving us. We are going to be releasing our new t-shirts. I just got a notification today that the t-shirts are in, so I've got to go pick those up, and I will show those hopefully on one of the next videos. And then we're going to set up a PayPal link so that you guys can send any orders through email and PayPal us, so then we can get your shirt shipped out to you. And I think that's it. Remember, if you like the videos, to do the like, the share, the subscribe, and all that. And we will see you guys all next time. Have a great day.